Start with Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation by United Church of Christ. Not here? Okay. Roll call, please.
Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington. Allen.
Here.
Char.
Okay, we have a quorum. One thing I want to mention is we need to add an executive session, a very quick one, prior to item number 15, which is the 15th Minnesota lot, so we can discuss with you what's going on there. Recommendation by Mayor Everson to reappoint department heads for July 2022 through July 2025. That would be Mrs. Bathke as Finance Officer, Mr. Greenway, Corn Palace Director, Mr. Johnson, City Attorney, Mrs. Kitchens, Human Resources Director, Mr. Coster, Chief of Police, Mr. Larson, Chief of Fire EMS, Mr. Nelson, Parker and Rec Director, Mrs. Pickett, Community Service Director, and Mr. Schrader, Public Works Director. I think we need a motion, don't we? For council. Yep.
I move to approve all of those wonderful people as a department heads.
Motion by Mrs. Charles, thank you. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Issue the oath of office, department heads. If you stand and raise your right hand. No need to be nervous, Mr. Greenway. You only have to memorize it. Repeat after me. I state your name, having been appointed to the office of, state the office. Within and for the city of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of South Dakota. And the ordinance of said city of Mitchell. And I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform the duties of the office of, state the office. If you would sign those and get them back to me so I can sign them, please. Okay, this being the first meeting in July, we have election of officers, President of City Council.
Well, maybe I'll start, and you guys hop in, obviously, whenever you want. We've got a lot of things kind of in the works, and I asked both Kevin and Dan if they'd be willing to do it for one more year and didn't take too much arm twisting, and they said yes. So that's going to be my recommendation, and I'll make that motion. Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Smith and second by Mr. Rice. Is that you? To appoint or to elect Mr. McCardle as president. Is that right? All those, any discussion? Oh, Mr. Barrington, glad you could join us. Sorry. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Vice President, you're nominating Mr. Allen. Is that correct? Okay, and you second. Okay. Further discussion?
Well, I'm just kidding. No.
You have the floor, Mr. Barrington.
Let everybody know that I'm here.
All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. You'll abstain. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal consent agenda items. Anything you wish to remove?
Nothing to remove, but Joe, can you, I see the change orders for the West Water Tower. Can you give an update on the status and timeline of that?
So the reason, Joe Schrader, Public Works Director, the reason for the change orders were that we did some exploratory digging on the standpipe that goes into the tower, and it was found to be in good condition, and we had planned, if it was not in good condition, so basically a new standpipe into the tower. So we were able to remove that from H&W's contract which then in turn allowed us to paint the entire inside of the water tower. We also added some lighting to the logos, and we still saved, we're still money ahead. I know our contingencies were before like 10,000, now we're at 62, so.
Is there any other inspection part that has to be done before they'll start?
No, their hope is to start this fall, as there are constraints on when they can start because of our high water usage time now. It'll either be this fall or in the spring.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Should point out that we do have appointment of liaison, council liaison board positions. Nothing changed in those. So if you want to be changed, you better speak up quickly. Yep, the green light's on.
The green lights, but it doesn't, does it? Oh,
Test, test, whoa. Now I'm on. Okay,
Move approval of the consent agenda.
okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Charks.
second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address mayor, member, city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken this time. Anybody wish to address council? Council wish to address anything? Well, that was a quick one.
You know what, I
Go
just thought I'd ask, Joe, can you give us an update on the 5th and 9th Street projects? How are they coming along? Are they on schedule?
They are on schedule. We have been getting some weather as of late, but no, I think we're on schedule, working on underground. Things are going pretty good.
One thing I will point out quickly is after the storm today, we have opened up the landfill for branches free of charge, and they can take them out to the compost area as well. We do not do curbside pickup because it is cost prohibitive to the city to go around and pick them up. And at this point in time, we have enough projects going on that the city crews need to get completed before the weather turns to winter. So they are free of charge at the landfill, or you can take them to the compost site through July 11th.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Mr. Mayor, I do know that is very much appreciative of the citizens, because when they have to haul them, it's nice just to take them to 8th Street.
Yeah.
In fact,
I
I
agree.
had some calls today about that, and then I happened to get an email from Joe that said that's opened up, and I called them back, and they said they'd probably haul some tonight.
You wanted to haul yours there, didn't you?
No, you're going to do that tomorrow.
Okay, he lost a tree today. So. Okay, nobody else wishes to address council? Okay, Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council recess, sit of the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 7/18/22. Vanderham Motorsports has applied for conditional use permit to operate an automotive repair service facility located at 2951 South Raleigh Street, legally described as Lot 11 of Iverson's Addition in the southeast quarter of Section 33, Township 103, North, Range 60 West of the 5th primary, Davis County, South Dakota. Real property is owned UD Urban Development. Since Mr. Jenicus is gone, are you handling this, Mr. Schrader? Or you don't want to say anything?
It's just to set the date so we can.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion?
Can you just tell me where on, this is obviously out in the country.
Yep, it's on South Raleigh. I believe it's the 2200 block. So it is south of the Spruce intersection, probably a couple hundred feet.
This is our
Oh, okay.
EJ.
Yep, it's in the EJT.
Oh, okay.
or
Okay.
ETJ.
Ethan.
Yep.
Extraterritorial.
Extraterritorial.
Oh, yeah, okay, like, okay.
It's within a 3-mile boundary which is a whole nother story, so. Okay, anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Entertain a motion for Board of Adjustment to adjourn City Council reconvene regular session.
So moved.
Okay. Mr.
Marty.
Barrington? Mr. Allen? All in unison? Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing an action on the following alcohol license application on application to transfer for RL 19079 retail on-sale liquor license from Anissa Diner doing business as Jade's, 107 North Main Street, Mitchell, to Anissa Diner doing business as Jade's, 107 North Main Street, Mitchell, due to reconfiguration of the license.
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster with the Police Department. We have no concerns over this. Essentially, what they're doing is including that parking lot area that they had acquired into their license for outdoor event usage.
I think, Ms. Diner, so you want to tell us what you're doing? It's free advertising for you. You got to come up here. People are watching online, that's why.
We are hoping to add either a deck or concrete. We're not sure yet because, prices right now are crazy. But we would like to add some kind of a beer garden, maybe a small stage. We can have some solo performers out there. We'd just love to kind of enhance that downtown part of Mitchell.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is what was the former parking lot for the old American Legion.
Yes, so it's
On the
50 feet.
north side of our building.
Yeah, 50 feet from it's not the entire lot. There's still part of that lot that's owned by another owner, but it's 50 feet out from the building, so we will stay within that, understanding we have to have fencing, the proper display of everything up there, so
Good.
looking forward to it, yes.
Very good.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, good luck. No, I want to entertain a motion to go into executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 125-23 legal.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. In my office quickly, please.
Thank you.
It's maybe adjusted too much attention to I know we usually do it down part. It's a double door. Oh. After the chicken. She doesn't have enough beef, that's the issue. These are fighting again, she don't. Don't tell her I do that. It's fake. Any other deal?
Yeah. I'm sure that's not true. Yeah. Just like on Sunday,
Where are you?
Oh, I know, I thought about that too. Ocean from here. Yeah, he was snickering. And she's like, because I said, oh, let's go exploring. And I was thinking, we're the first people to ever find this beach down here this year. And the guy was just chuckling in his tent, because there was a tent area. He just thought you could see the whole ocean from there. Don't believe it.
I'm asking at the list, you like experience, you got it.
To go along, yeah. You just never know what you're gonna see. So like the jungle. Finally did. That was my last flight.
Yeah, as I said, the first one I saw that Coney Island, we need a 9-inch reference.
And she said,
I've always,
on driving, that the it's called there again.
always liked that idea. Really? Who knows? First things first. Then at the bar, Stokes credit card, we should have been
And dump them off.
I was hoping that
Like,
we'd get.
okay, so she told me, like, when we were driving on Friday, when I was telling her. I said, she says that they go to go under the first. You can see that the Friday, let's do something on the agenda. She's like, that's where they're at. She's like,
But you didn't
so I
know
don't
it's
think they're
happening.
trying to hide anything.
This tree we lost. Right when you get the right way.
No, 15.
I would discover from all American.
It'll take about 5 minutes.
Just leave it. You're fine.
I'm sure. Well, that's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
I got a 6-foot left right now.
I know.
But I think a tail had good. No, you got it. I mean, you get 4 arms.
I know. I know.
So when you get through the door, there's an angle involved.
Well, yeah, so if you bring it straight in, you could probably bring it in 10 feet or so. You have to turn, and so there might be enough room for that swing.
It's about 15 or 16 feet, I think.
So if you give up some of it.
We sure want to measure first.
Yeah. We have to.
Yeah.
You know, it's about.
It's a monster, I mean, it's nice. And I think I would write sale of the house. I think I'd just give it to them. Yeah, because it's a small number compared to that.
Well,
Oh, no. Oh, I figured 1,000 or 1,500. Put the window glass and take it out.
I forgot to mute it again. I shut there, but I had
Geez,
a
that's
conversation.
Somebody did.
John, you got
Okay, everybody back? Okay, we're back in session. Item 15, action on resolution R 2022-29, transfer of Lot 1, Block 1, Fullerton Property, second edition. Mr. Johnson, you want to go over that? Or do you want me to start?
There we go.
All right, so this resolution was in front of council a couple of months ago when we had an offer in front of us. At that time, it was Corey and Destiny Merrick for $30,000. At the end of last week, the city did end up receiving another offer, and was all taking place after the time that the agenda had been published. We were able to get an agenda item on there to hold the place for action tonight, but the details were not finalized in time for us to have that published. So with the resolution that you see in front of you tonight, we'll need to swap out some of those details that are highlighted, namely the purchase price, which will be $35,000, and then the names. The potential buyer has asked to remain anonymous unless the deal is approved. So at this point, I can't disclose those, but if the council does approve the deal, we can disclose those at that time, and then they would be filled in the resolution as well. And then I think there's the date at the bottom that we just need to update to the current date. So if there's going to be a motion to approve, again, the purchase price would be $35,000, and then the buyer, currently anonymous, to be disclosed if approved.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion?
Just to confirm, that's with the conditions that I just stated.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
And just for the public and council's information, the buyer is Moody Properties LLC, so that's the name that will be filled into the resolution there.
Okay. Okay, action and resolution on R 2022. Wow, now you got this thing real sensitive. A plat of Lot 2A, Block 1, Westwood, First Edition. Mr. Schrader, are you handling these for Mr.
Yes.
Jenegas?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission, motion to approve 5-0 with 2 absent. This is just west of Highway 37 near 15th. It's just a cleanup of a previously platted property, and we recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-39, plat of lots 1 and 2 of CJM 3rd Edition. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, again, Planning Commission approved 5-0 with 2 absent. You see there are 2 parcels there. The city will be receiving the south parcel, and I believe the property owners listed there on the right of the page will be receiving left of that property, the bigger piece. And staff does recommend approval.
And Joe, this gives us access to the pump station?
So the reason we asked for that additional is give us some more room to allow our bigger trucks to back up and pull out. It's just not possible down there to loop all the way around like we were originally planning. And we did receive that at no cost, or $1, I believe is what we'll.
Proverbial dollar.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-41, annexation of south 13 feet of the south 450 feet of Lot 2, excluding south 375 feet thereof, Mitchell Township, 17-10360.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this was requested by Doug Asleson. Piece of that property is in the county and a piece is in the city. The way his storage unit was going to lay out, he needs that piece of property to be annexed, so all of the storage unit, the single unit, is within the city and the other unit is within the county. We do recommend approval.
I was surprised by this because I thought that on one side of Ullman was the county, the other side was the city. So it seems unusual.
Not necessarily. If you go up by Twin City Fan, it's the same thing. Twin City Fan, I believe, is within the city limits, and then south of there it jogs back to the road. So it's
So
kind of
this is another area
in and
that's
out.
like.
Yes.
Yep.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-42, annexation of Lot K of Kippa subdivision in the east half of the northwest quarter of Section 9, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota, and Lot A of FF Kippa's First Edition subdivision in the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 9, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this annexation request was by Joseph and Barbara Kippis. It is a individual lot that is kind of island out in the county that will now be made whole, brought back into the city, and we recommend approval.
One of the things we did tell them we would do is obviously coming into the city, they're an island right now, they're county in the middle of the city. We will dedicate those taxes they're paying for the city to go to help clean up Lake Mitchell. Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading on ordinance O 2022-08, amending Mitchell City Code Section 6-1-1 regarding animals at large. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so this is your second reading on this particular ordinance. If you recall, the last time it was in front of you, we made some small amendments, adding in some additional language to help deal with public events, and then some additional language to help deal with distances that an animal could potentially be away from their handler, or locations where they should not be. So I don't have a lot more to discuss. It's the same as as amended from the last meeting. It's just as a matter of procedure, we had to bring it back for another second reading.
Did you want to speak to this one?
Yeah.
Come on up.
I have concerns about
State your name, please.
Bruce Treble.
Okay.
I live at 514 West Ash along Dry Run Creek.
Okay.
I've lived there for 46 years. The bike path has not been there that long, but I have. Anyway, a lot of people use the path, and when the dog is on the leash, it's stuck to the path. If you allow the shock collar, they can roam. I'm concerned that they will start using my backyard as their toilet. Okay? I also have a garden in the back. They would probably run through that. Now, this morning I went out for a cup of coffee and looked at my garden. There was a guy coming from the west, Minnesota, walking east, and he yelled. So I turned around and looked to see if he was yelling at me, but he was yelling at his dog, which was 50 feet or more behind him by the creek. Well, when he yelled at the dog, he had a shock collar. When he yelled at the dog come running towards him. I don't know if he used the shock collar or not, but the dog was running. Okay, a lot of people use that park. Morning, afternoon, you know, all times of day. There's people that use leashes. There's people that don't use leashes. When they don't, the dogs roam.
Okay.
Another issue I have is there's a lot of rabbits in that area, probably all along that park. If the dog catches a scent of a rabbit or sees a rabbit, I don't think a shock collar is going to stop the dog from running after it. So that's my concern.
So, okay.
And I know there's areas in town where there's no sidewalks, so, they walk in the street. People are going to have issues with the dogs using their front yards as their toilet. If they're on a leash, the owner can control that.
Okay,
That's my concern.
very good. Okay,
So,
questions? Okay.
I mean, it's something you guys really need to look at, It's not just the park, it's going to be the whole town, So, and just to give you another story, my brother had a lab. He put a shock collar on him. We were pheasant hunting. The dog saw a rabbit, away he went. He couldn't get him to stop with the shock collar. So, they work and they don't work. I just hate to have my backyard turn into a restroom. Because once they start, they get that scent, then that's what they do. Just like now they're putting in lights, and I went to visit with the guys that were doing the cement work for the poles. So I told him, I said, gave the dogs another target. He says, yeah, down the path, there's a pole that we had to put a light by. He says we could hardly stand it to put the cement work in because it stunk. So that's my concern.
Okay.
I hate to see my backyard turn into a toilet. And so would my neighbors. I talked to my neighbor east of me. He's an elderly guy, don't get around that good, and he feels the same way I do.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
I also have a little concern on that with, mainly on bike paths because they're going through people's backyards. And I don't know what the length of leashes are. I'm guessing 10 to 15 feet, but about dogs roaming and, how far do you let them go with the shock collar? I think without having a feet, is the half block
We have-
under control?
We have 50 feet. That's in there. It can't be more than 50 feet away from you.
Which
That was
is-
added. That was added by your addendum.
Okay.
And it does also say that they can't go on to another person's property.
Property.
So, all the instances that the gentleman mentioned, they would all still be violations of the proposed ordinance.
Which would be, he'd have to call it in.
Right, which I guess.
You'd have
would
to
be the
do that
same
in any instance.
If it was a leash
Sure.
violation.
If a dog is on a shock collar and he runs through my yard and stops and dumps and takes off, and if I see it, by the time I call public safety, those people are gone before they get there. To give you an example, there's a guy that lives on Minnesota Street. He walks his dog every day. When he'd get down to my place, he would take the dog off the leash, and away they go. I don't know how far he went. I don't know if he went all the way to Burr, but he would be gone for a while. Pretty soon he'd turn around and come back. When he got to my place, he put the leash on the dog and finished out the walk. The reason why he did that is because you can see from Minnesota Street, from Ash Street you can't see. But from Minnesota you can see him walking. So I watched him for about a week. One day I walked out back, I said, sir, your dog, there's a city ordinance, your dog has to be on a leash. He put the dog on the leash, had no problem with him since. But what I'm saying is, if I call law enforcement, by the time they get there, these people are going to be gone.
In any instance, that's probably true. You're right.
So I end up picking it up. So that's another concern, Right, you guys, they're breaking the law, but by the time they get there, it's too late. They're gone. Because I have called some people in, and they're gone by the time they get there to check it out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, further discussion, comments?
We're dog owners, and I'm going to be voting against this for all of the reasons stated before. And, you know, I was just saying I was in a home with a pit bull last week, and I thought to myself, there's no shot collar in the world that would stop that dog if it decided that it made up its mind that it was going to run ahead and, you know, saw another dog and decided to take it on or whatever. So I'm going to be voting against this tonight.
And I too will be voting against it. I believe they all should be leashed.
Okay.
They're in control. They're not in control with the shock collar. I've hunted with them. I've got people that called me on them that has said they work. They don't work. They're human errors. They're errors. They just, two dogs get together, got two shock collars on, they get worse. I've seen it. And I just, I don't know what we have right now is working, so be it.
And I think
Well, it really isn't working necessarily
it is
because,
working, Mayor.
well, it doesn't,
You want to take your.
Hold on.
This is
Hold-
about you taking
and
this.
if you guys don't want to do it, I'm okay with that. I'm just telling you
Take your dog for a
that
walk.
today it happens. I mean, it's going on. So, and one way or the other, I'm trying to right something that's happening. If you don't want to do it, I'm okay with that.
Mr. Mayor,
It'll be a
may I
walk.
ask
Yes,
something?
come on up. You sure can.
I've walked the park where I live, from Burr clear to Minnesota. On both ends, there's bags for them to pick up dog doo-doo. Some do, some don't.
You're right.
You guys, the city spent money on a dog park north of town. Send them out there.
West.
If they want to use their shock collar and work with their dogs, make them go out there.
Okay.
You know, why spend money on stuff if you're not going to use it? You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
and there is people, basically, we can't train the dogs. We have to train the owners. And a lot of them are breaking the law. It says leash, and there's a lot of them that don't.
Exactly my point.
So you need
but
to
that-
catch
and
them.
That's okay if we want to do that.
Once you catch them and give them a warning.
Well, there again, in order to catch them, the police have to see them. So, and that's fine. I mean, you can call the police every time you see somebody, and
Right.
we'll try our best to enforce the law.
Right. But I mean, they know the people of Mitchell know you're the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to see somebody, they're going to listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Your dog's supposed to be on a leash. That's the city ordinance. I had a dog. I don't have a dog now. My dog was on a chain in the backyard. I would let her off the chain to run, but I was with her and she stayed in my yard.
That doesn't matter. I think it requires you to be on a leash regardless, does it
Even
not?
in your yard?
Even in your yard.
That I didn't know. My own yard, the dog has to be on a leash?
Some of them have some kind of fence around them.
I don't know I think the ordinance says you're going to be on a leash anytime the dog's outside the house.
Well,
So,
that, even though I don't have a dog right now, that should be looked at. I mean, it's your own place, and if you can keep your dog, you know, in your own yard, you know,
hence the reason we're here looking at this.
Yes.
All right?
and if people can't control their dogs, there is a lady that has an obedience class. So they can go there too if they can't control their dog.
Mayor, currently it states, "An animal shall be deemed to be running at large when off or away from the premises and not under complete
So on your
control."
premises, you're okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And I think it's safe to say that in the vast majority of circumstances, a shock collar would work. But I think that unfortunately, there are going to be those who it won't work. And I just think we need to be careful and be prudent when we're making this decision and understanding that not everyone is going to have a dog that will be responsive to that shock collar.
Well, and not everybody's going to put their dog on a leash. I mean, I can attest to that by walking and on the bike trail around our area, so.
I think you've hunted with my dad's dogs, so.
But your dad doesn't live in Mitchell either.
No, I know, but my point is that his dogs don't always respond to the shock collar, so
Well,
that's
they
my
usually
point.
come back to the shock collar. It's the voice command. They're not good at it.
Okay. Sorry if you're watching, Dad.
Well, I don't have an issue with this. To me, it's a update to the ordinance to train the owners. The dogs don't know the difference. And it's happening today. And I live across the street from Patton Young Park, and I see hundreds of dogs on leashes and not on leashes. And whether they have shock collars or don't have shock collars, it's happening, and this is an addition to me, in my mind, an additional control that you're able to use, because all leashes don't work. Retractable leashes that let people go out and back, I've seen people get legs wrapped around those leashes, and we don't control that. I've seen people injured and knocked down with retractable leashes, and nobody's saying anything, but this is, to me, is another control. And I think it's an improvement, and I will make a motion to approve this on second reading.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Barrington?
Aye.
Allen?
No.
Charks? No. Smith?
Aye.
Sabers?
No.
Rice?
Aye.
Dosher?
No.
McCardle?
Aye.
I vote aye, so.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? Roll call.
Charks? No. Smith?
Aye.
Sabers?
No.
Rice?
Aye.
Dosher?
No.
McCardle?
Aye.
Barrington?
Aye.
Allen?
No.
Okay, my vote is aye, so motion carries. Second reading on ordinance O 2022-11, revising provisions of Chapter 4-2 Liquor Control. Mr. Johnson.
Again, we went over this at the last meeting. No changes from that time. So unless there's any questions, I'll just open it up to council.
Well, and I read through it again. To me, it just updates, and I'll say, so we brought it at least up to 2020.
What, this kind of came to me,
So-
one of the things that brought this up was bar owners had come in and said they did not realize the city was more stringent on the
Than the-
requirement
In the state.
for 18 to 21-year-olds.
That was
than
one of the
state.
items.
So we're going to bring it up to what the state.
But then also the items of the places and
Oh,
those
yeah.
types of things. And you
Mr. Barrington.
talk about having an ordinance that isn't being followed and not being enforced, it really shouldn't even be an ordinance then. And then my reference to 2020, bringing up the COVID takeout, at least trying to address that, to allow the bar owners to at least try and keep that business. I hope it never happens to that extent ever again. But that's kind of how I viewed it, just kind of brought us into at least into the year 2020, and probably changed some things that have been there, since 1984, maybe?
I'd say at least that.
So,
Some of the things we didn't even realize till we started
right.
researching the
so
ordinance a little
with
bit.
that, I'll move approval.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice for approval. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Roll call.
Sabers,
Aye.
Rice,
Aye.
Dosher,
Aye.
McCardle,
Aye.
Barrington,
Aye.
Allen,
Aye.
Charks, Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. Update on bridge inspection with Burroughs Engineering. Mr. Prunty. All our bridges are in fine working order, right?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Eric Prunty with Burroughs Engineering. Just wanted to let you know that we completed the 2022 bridge inspections, and there were 4 structures that were looked at and reviewed as part of that. The 2 box culverts, one on South Minnesota and one on Burr, they remain in really good shape. We had some minor patchwork that we recommended, and City Forces took care of that. So those are in really good shape. The West End Bridge on West Harmon there, that was built around 2015. It's still in pretty good shape. One of the things, and we met with Joe and the staff last week to discuss these. It's new, it's good. The DOT does have a program for preservation. We're currently using that for Foster Street. They have modified that a little bit, that they really want to see those bridges in really good shape or pretty good shape before preservation tactics like sealing them are utilized on them. So that opportunity may be available on that bridge, and we'll continue to work with Joe and staff on that if they want to look at doing that. The last one, the Canal Bridge, that's the bugger that we have. That one, the north abutment timber pile cap is really in tough shape, decay, deterioration. Right now, we have it load rated at 50% legal loads, and that load rating will remain in effect.
What is the legal hours?
It's 24 for a single unit and 40 for a combination. So right now, it's posted for 12 for single unit and combination of 20. There's a couple things that I guess we discussed with staff on, that timber pile cap will need to be replaced, probably with the steel I-beam. And to do so, the precast deck units would have to be lifted off, remove the timber pile cap, and at that time, I'd recommend we do the same on the south side. The south side is in better shape, but again, it's probably a matter of time. It also has a lot of timber abutment, planking, and that type of stuff that we'd want to evaluate to make sure if we take that deck off to replace or repair those caps, that everything's done. The other option that we discussed with them is through the South Dakota DOT Bridge Improvement Grant Program. We went down that road trying to get a preservation project from them a couple years ago to do the work I just talked about, maintenance, replacing that cap. They did not find it as a worthy project in their opinion, so they didn't give us the grant. They'd said, well, do it with your own forces or go down the replacement route. And so there is opportunity on the replacement side through grants. The first step would be a big preliminary engineering grant, which is due August 1st. That is basically the hydraulics, surveying hydraulics of it to determine what a replacement structure would be. And then once that's complete, then you can go for additional grant applications for the eventual replacement. So have some things that we'll continue conversation with Joe and staff on that, kind of where it's going to be. If we do want to go for the big preliminary engineering grant, that is due August 1st. So we'd probably have to have a resolution in front of you at the next council meeting for that application, so, but
So was this on the list last year, or was it 2 years ago?
if I remember right, it
But
was,
regardless, it was very close.
it was last year as well.
Yeah, did we do improvements, some improvements? It was just watching it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were kind of on standby. It was on Joe's radar. I know he talked to us at the time about putting together something, trying to, I think might even got a couple quotes, or a quote to do that kind of rehab repair work. And I think at that time it was just under 100,000, so I'd assume it'd be over 100,000 by now.
I think that's a good assumption.
So,
So if we applied for the grant and assuming that part of that was good, I assumed there'd be a study to figure out what we'd have to do, then we'd have to bid it. So is it a 2023, 2024, 2025? I mean, even if we started now, is 2025 kind of the realistic timeframe?
realistically, historically, I would say no, it'd be beyond that.
Oh, even further out, okay.
The first part to do the preliminary engineering is at least a year, just to kind of
Okay, to understand what needs to be done.
what needs to be done, and then an actual design of what structure came out of that, and then a bid letting. And
Bid letting go, okay.
But
So,
to get that design and eventual construction contract, that's another grant application. That's a once-a-year deal, so.
another year, okay.
If we'd even be able to get that in line for January of 2023 application, then you still have another year to do the design and all
Okay,
that. So it,
2025 might be the best we could do.
that would be the best. One nice thing, at least, well, I don't know if it's nice, but the DOT's big program
Yeah.
was at 15 million a year. This year, they're upping it to 33 million a year. So there's a lot of money that's being shuffled in the state for bridges that are in poor condition. There was another program that we discussed with Joe. The same application, they call it a local federal bridge replacement. It's basically does the same thing. That one's 100% funded by the feds. But there's two criteria, and this one doesn't meet one of them. It's in poor condition, but it's got to be a functional classification of a local road. And it's a rural major arterial or
And that isn't it. huh?
rural urban arterial, so it doesn't meet both those conditions, but that pot of money was, I think, 6 million, which is a big chunk of change, but when you start replacing bridges, it's not that many, really. And guess what? Everybody, when they see free money, they're going to be applying, so.
Can't blame them.
No, and that's the route I would have recommended for you all as well, but it just didn't meet both criteria.
And how much do you estimate that this is going to cost to repair or replace?
Haven't got into that yet. I'm sure we'll need to go over that.
So I know we had talked roughly 2 million. So I guess to put that into perspective, a bridge that costs 2 million, we're on the hook for roughly 400 to 500,000, probably when it's all said and done. The repairs last year were 100,000, and that would get us roughly 20 years, whereas the new life design of a new bridge is it 50 or
75.
75? So I mean, when you talk about cost dollars now versus later, your money ahead to replace the bridge versus repairing it and pushing it down the road 20 years.
So Joe, we're looking at 2026, the earliest to do anything with the bridge.
Correct.
Is the
2025,
bridge going to last that
2026.
long? It's going to deteriorate, obviously, every year. So you'll be lowering your load limits? Or
That could potentially. It's hard saying with that timber. I'm guessing you'll want to have something in the next 5 years in motion to get that taken care of, yeah.
With the load limit, the single unit 12 tons and combination 20, are we preventing people that want to use that road with higher limits? Are we preventing them? I mean, we're making them drive around, but is it a major inconvenience, or is that, I don't have the experience to know how much either farm or tractor or semi-traffic might go on that road.
They will use it. I used it when I was in business, but if the load limits won't hold it,
You got to go around, yep.
Because you would be
You're responsible.
for the bridge going down.
Right.
Period.
That'd be the cheapest way to replace it.
Yeah. I don't know. But it is a throughway. It would save the grower a round trip 6 miles, at
Right.
least.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to go out to the Kelly property, or by the Kelly property.
406
south,
over.
right?
Or
And
06.
over.
So that's,
Be good for harvest, but it's not going to happen this year. They're all got semis there. There are 40,000 tons.
40,000 pounds, yeah, yeah. Okay. I've got one other question, and it's kind of for Joe, not necessarily related to, well, it came to my mind based on reading the Dry Run Creek item, and can't remember who, a couple weeks ago anyway, somebody in the biking world asked me about the sidewalk at Dry Run Creek at the railroad crossing, because it's, I'll say 7, 8 years ago, it got replaced and it was really good and it was on grade and bicycles could go across there without any question. And right now, none of them use it. They all go in the street because you can't get across the railroad tracks on the east side. The west side's still pretty good.
So we did meet with a BNSF representative at that railroad crossing, and it's in the plan to fix those, I believe, with, be next construction season.
Okay.
So we're working through that process with them. I always like to give a little hesitation when we're dealing with BNSF, because it always seems to take longer, so I'm a little hesitant to say next construction season, but it's at least on the radar to be fixed.
Well, it got fixed, I mean, it was, I'll say 20 years ago, it was even worse than it is now. It got fixed at some point, so it was, actually, you could ride your bike across there. And now you just can't. I mean, you'll take a tire out or damage a wheel or something. So, okay.
any other questions for Mr. Prunty?
Well, I don't think there's even a question. We better start moving forward on this unless you guys feel differently, but that's one of our newer bridges we have in town, and we're talking of replacing it. A little disheartening.
I agree. I'd get the wheels in motion anyway. It doesn't happen in a year or two. It happens in 4 or 5 years. So all sorts of conditions might change by 2025 and 2026, but if we don't at least have wheels in motion based on this report, why are we inspecting the bridges then? So
Yep.
if that can come back, that'd be great.
All right, Mr. Schrader.
Yeah, there will be a resolution at the next meeting to apply for the big grant.
Okay. Thank you.
We've been pretty successful in getting those big grants. I mean, is there do they say anything like, well, Mitchell's already had?
I don't think so. I think we've just had good projects that required those funds. So we're fortunate that way that we have the big program, and Bros has been very successful for us to obtain those.
So Joe, once we apply for a grant, how long is it usually, we know we are going to get some funds?
I'll let Eric answer that question.
When it comes time to the very first one, the August app, and for that preliminary, you'd know in the month of August if you had that. But that's only for probably an $80,000 study of what to do there. Then the replacement applications are due the first of every year, one time a year, and you probably don't find out until March of that year if you get that grant. So it takes some time.
We'll know in 2023 of March, maybe,
No,
2024?
that would, I know it, but it would be very tough, just in that timeline, to get it all done by a January 1st application of 2023. So, okay?
Okay, further questions?
And just before I forget, gave you a real brief summary. If you want the complete inspection reports, Joe and staff have them on hand, and we also have a GIS website that we can get them to you if you'd like, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, executive session according to South Dakota Codified Law 125-24, employee negotiations, and 125-21, personnel.
Move to go to executive session.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There will be no action after.
We don't have to do nothing.
Adjourn.
We're done.